Good morning. Happy Monday. We hope you guys enjoyed the Super Bowl and the Puppy Bowl and the Kitten Bowl. Okay. That's Dan Merle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a terrible, awful game.
Oh,
Yes.
was it? I
Just
actually,
the worst.
confession, I did watch 2 of those things. I'll let you guess which ones. So you didn't enjoy the Super Bowl.
Awful.
Spencer.
Pretty boring
JT
game.
loved
JT
it
loved
because
it.
JT
Patriots
loved
fans
it.
liked it because they won, and that
Okay.
is literally the only demographic that liked that game yesterday. It's
All right.
terrible.
So Tom Brady lovers were happy.
Yeah.
Spencer felt upset because he's an LA person.
No.
Oh.
No. I didn't really
I
know.
feel nothing.
I found out we had a team, I guess, last year. So
Sure.
it's not enough time to really get true blue Ram fans
Okay.
to join the Ramley, if you
Okay.
will.
I will. Yeah. Now I wish I would have
maybe
watched.
next year. Now I found out we have a football team. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have
Billy
a couple,
Business.
right?
Yeah,
We
multiple?
do.
The Raiders? The Chargers?
The Chargers,
There you go.
apparently, but really it's the Rams.
So I had it on in the living room.
Yeah.
But my wife was in our bedroom.
Watching
I
the
was in
Puppy
the other
Bowl.
room. So it was just on in the living room playing to nobody. But I was like, I have to have it on, but I'm not going to watch this.
Okay. Well, if you watched the Puppy Bowl like I did, well, then you know that we watched the better thing, apparently, because this was boring. But there were, as always, some really great ads. What?
I love the editorializing. You watched the wrong thing because it's boring. But
But as always, there were some interesting ads that you can then watch online, so you don't even have to watch the thing if you don't want to. But we hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, congratulations, Patriots fans and JTE in the booth. He's feeling.
How does it feel to have won the worst Super Bowl of all time, JT? Great.
Feels good.
Feels great. That's good.
Feels good. You know what else feels good? The Avengers. They don't actually. They're quite melancholy. The Avengers Endgame teaser trailer played during the Super Bowl. We got a chance to watch that online. I hope you did too. And it's basically Marvel's version of The Leftovers. It is quite melancholy and very morose. And there's a few things that...
That was my face during the entire Super Bowl. Captain America really captured the national zeitgeist.
as always. He's quite good at that, as a matter of fact. I guess the one thing that I did notice were, well, we'll talk about this, Rocket and Groot, where they are, but also, pardon me, Rocket and Thor. Oh, Groot.
How dare you?
Okay. But the other thing is where they're all headed to at the end, I assume is something that's going to take them into the quantum realm, question mark?
Oh.
Is that what we would assume?
I mean, based off of the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Right?
you have to think that the quantum realm plays somewhat of a big part. I mean, they do a good job in that movie of guys, there's actually civilizations and worlds and other things that you can do in here besides just be really freaking teeny.
Yeah.
So I would assume they're gonna pay
What if
that
they?
off.
What if the first 2/3 of the movie is them getting there, and then they get in and they're like, no, it's just being teeny.
It's a downsizing
That's
crossover.
it.
Matt Damon's there.
That's the whole thing. Come up with a new plan.
Now you got JT to pop in.
There you go.
That's a good day.
He's in a good mood today.
He's happy today because of the puppies. So yeah, I that was kind of the thing that I noticed. And then Billy, we were talking about the location of Rocket and Thor. Where do they seem to be?
I don't know. A lot of people think that, and I thought it too. The first time I just watched it really quick, it looks like Thor is almost in the same place that Thanos ends up at the end of Infinity War. Then again, they ended on Wakanda, so it could have easily he's just hanging out
Enhance.
in
Enhance.
Wakanda.
Enhance.
But also Rocket, who's in a costume that much more resembles his OG Guardians costume. He's coming in. There's a beach or so. I'm not sure where that is.
Right behind him is
So-
Luke Skywalker throwing a lightsaber.
I was going to say it's where Dobby lives in Harry Potter.
It almost looks like, they were talking about in Thor Ragnarok, where it was, where did they go? Where he's like, this could be the new Asgard.
Iceland or something?
Yeah, it was somewhere.
Yeah.
But I wonder, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. That doesn't look like Wakanda, or at least the Wakanda we've seen so far. So I don't know where that is, but that looks really sad and interesting.
Yeah, the tone, like you said, end of Ant-Man and the Wasp kind of indicated pretty strongly that pretty strongly that they were going to be heading into the quantum realm at some point, and that was going to largely play into the plot. One can only imagine that time travel might become a possibility in there. I mean, if there is an absence of those things, if there's an absence of kind of time and space reality as we know it, then time travel should be available to you. Mm-hmm. That's just science.
It's quantum science.
But that's quantum science.
Yeah.
But the tone, Dan, what do you think?
I mean, it would be weird if they were, joking around. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure there will be some joking around happening, but I mean, it's a downer. You ended on the huge downer, so I would imagine. I like that they appear to be taking some time to actually consider the consequences of what's happened instead of doing a Back to the Future 2 thing of just jumping in the next moment and flying off into wherever they're going to go. I'm actually very interested to see. Almost the most anticipated thing for me is to see what the vision is of a world where half the people just disappear. Because I know shows like The Leftovers and stuff have done it, but I'm curious to see how they deal with that. And then they'll get into their adventures and stuff. But for me, the really appealing part is where are they going to take these characters in dealing with this huge loss? So I like the tone of it, and I think I don't remember if it was this one or the next one, but I know that Kevin Feige has said that they're going to be a little cagey on what they show and where in the movie it comes from. And again, I don't need a trailer.
I hope it's
I don't
all
need
in
a
the
trailer
first
for
10
this
minutes.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that what they were saying? Is the
Yeah.
15 maybe?
Yeah.
All the marketing.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we
really
don't
hard
need
to
to
do.
really know, but we
It's
don't.
really hard to cut.
I
a
don't.
bunch of
No one
trailers
needs
from.
it.
We're going
I'm
to
not
see the
saying you're wrong.
movie.
I'm just
Can
saying
you
if
imagine
if they give me 15 minutes of footage and they're cut 2.5 minute trailers
Probably
and
more.
10 TV spots
Yeah.
from this 15 minutes, I'd be like, oof,
Yeah.
that's rough. Now you're just getting into I'll show you a whole scene because that's all that's left. I don't doubt that we probably haven't seen anything so far past the first 15 minutes, but if that's all they're gonna give,
Good.
don't get too hyped for that second trailer because it's gonna be
More buckle tightening.
yeah.
They'll just cut it to sabotage and call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you how whelmed are you on the scale of over or under?
Well, I know it's I wouldn't hold other movies to the standard, but I'm really excited by what I'm not seeing, which is any set pieces, any action scenes, really, and no Thanos. I really am respecting so far the amount that they're managing to hold back. So that's getting me more excited than if they showed, just a rapid fire clip of every cool shot from the movie.
And they don't really need it. Speaking of rapid, for this one, we're coming out. We're coming to see this. This is the culmination. This is the event. And people's friends are going to go see it too, just because they don't want to miss being a part of the conversation, is my guess. Speaking of rapid fire cutting to lead, Captain Marvel, new trailer for her. They seem to be with every trailer recently after the first one adding layers and depth to her personality, and this one was just kind of I am a badass, here's my sick beat.
Yeah, this one was very work it, nerd it, do it, makes sense.
It was
Harder, better, Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it was super, but also sort of Top Gunny, which is further, farther, faster.
Yeah.
It's it's the Marvel. I feel the need for speed. I was into it. I liked it.
What?
Oh, I thought you were making a face.
No.
That's a
That's a
face.
face.
That's a face.
The Jude Law face, this one.
Her teeth are gorgeous for having spent so much time in space.
There's no plaque out there.
Yeah, clearly.
There's no plaque in space. No one can hear you floss.
Nope.
Yeah, it seemed like this. I didn't of all of them. This was the one that seemed like a cut down, basically, of what we already saw. So I didn't really glean any new insight. It's a boring take, but that's what I got.
Well, I mean, I think at this point, it almost serves no different than if you just saw a regular TV spot while watching The Bachelor. That doesn't take away from if it looks cool or not. It's just when you think Super Bowl ads, you're oh man, this is actually sometimes before even seeing a real trailer, it's my first chance to see anything, and it's we're actually at the tail end of this
was she
marketing
punching?
campaign.
Like some kind of a craft.
Yeah, is she punching an aircraft?
Yeah.
Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Sure, but I feel you, Dan. It's like it doesn't take away from anything. It's just like it's not. We've seen a lot of this like stuff. Like now, I'm just ready to see the movie.
Same.
Whereas like a lot of these other ones, it's like, oh, that might actually be my first look at what this even is. You know.
I hope that during the inevitable blitz that will happen with this marketing, leading up to the probably in the 2 weeks before release, 2 to 3 weeks before release, I hope they don't give away the whole bank at that point. Although I'm impressed, I can't punch an aircraft.
Very few people can.
I mean, I could.
There's a guy who ate an entire airplane piece by piece. Have you ever heard of him?
What?
No.
Yeah. Look it up. Fact check me on that, Logan. There's a guy who ate an entire, I don't know if it was a 747, but I don't know if it was art or
I
I don't know if
That's
you can
not
eat
possible.
aluminum and not
eat
die.
an entire
you cut it down
747. Like, how do you eat the chairs?
How
It
do
would take
you
a lifetime
eat-
just to eat the seats.
Yeah, one bit at a time.
Yeah, but that would poison
up.
your system if you, right? Like you can't eat metal.
Cessna 150, which is sort of like a
It's a
Cessna
Cessna
150. So just a
150.
small.
Was it made of cheese? Like these aren't edible.
Yeah, how do you eat the like metal exterior?
One piece at a time.
He ate 18 bicycles, 15 shopping carts.
I don't
18
believe
bicycles,
This is-
15
I'm so glad
shopping
I'm right.
carts.
I don't believe any of this.
I don't believe
is
any
true.
of that, and I don't think we
Is
should
there
encourage
footage?
it at all.
Is there YouTube footage of him eating a piece of bicycle?
This is-
And then not dying.
That's not possible. You
Yeah.
can't do it. I ate like a marble when I was 3.
Yeah.
I had to go to the
You had to go to the
emergency room. This
emergency
guy's eating a bicycle? It's
Yeah.
not,
I don't
it's not
believe it.
real.
I want time lapse footage of eating the plane.
A thing.
I agree.
I'm just saying, Captain Marvel could do it.
I want the boyhood of eating a plane.
Yeah.
It took 12 years to eat.
I don't believe any of that. God damn it, Captain Marvel. What were you gonna say?
I don't know. It's a fine music video cut together trailer. I like that Chunky Milk commercial. That one really stuck out to me. Do you see that one?
No.
It was like Chunky Milk. No?
What?
What, did I watch a different Super Bowl than you guys?
I
Watched
keep
the
watched the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
I keep hearing about a chunky milk commercial too, and I went back and watched all the commercials, and I still didn't see this chunky milk commercial.
Okay,
So
yeah.
maybe I don't know. Maybe I
Talk
skipped
to
it
me
somewhere.
about what chunky milk is.
It was just a fun but horrifically disgusting commercial about. I don't even remember who it was for. So bad
Good job, bad job.
But it was about people like you don't want chunks in your milk, and it was just people pouring out chunky milk and drinking big chunks of dairy product.
Oh, I just got the chills.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the most affecting visual. It was like a Eraserhead or like something just that really puts you off. It was great.
All right.
But we can't remember what they were selling.
No.
Not a good
Kinda
ad.
like Geico.
Yeah, like domain names
Yeah.
or something.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, speaking of strange marketing, can we talk about? Wait, do we have more on Captain Marvel or Endgame?
We're good.
No.
Do we feel complete?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
good. Let's talk about what the frolic Bud Light and Game of Thrones were doing. Okay, I have the following 10 issues with this commercial. One is that the Bud Knight gets his butt whipped. So why is that enticing me to drink your frothy beverage? It's not. Two, if said beverage had come in on the dragon, maybe I would have been more interested. But three, the dragon and Franken Mountain have nothing to do with each other. So you don't even, what, do you even Game of Thrones? What is this ad? And I you know what, on HBO's behalf, I understand that times are hard. So if they just got very reduced or no cost marketing, then fine. If Bud Light mostly flipped the bill on this, then sort of fine. But at the same time, how is this really selling Bud Light, Dan Merle?
But that's my weird thing is it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
selling Game of Thrones.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also
But it's
kind
doing
of
like
selling
the
Bud
worst
Light.
job of selling Game of Thrones and its own beer. You just made your beer the lamest
Yeah.
character in this entire minute and a half sketch.
Yeah.
Well, was he supposed to be Oberyn Martell?
But he's he's a different character who meets the fate of both that initial night that he knocked off his horse, you remember, in season 1, the one that ends up getting killed
Oh,
because he's
okay.
the one that he gave the poison probably
Yeah.
to, okay.
I feel like
You tracked what I just said.
No.
I feel like someone at Bud Light had the idea for this, and they pitched it to the Game of Thrones people, and they're like, "We'll do it, but only if you advertise our show." And they're like, "But we're already advertising something," and they're like, "Then no deal." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. We'll advertise your show inside our advertisement of." It was odd, and also, does this mean that Bud Light exists in Westeros?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's brown ale and Bud Light.
Very strange.
The world just got that much grimmer.
You know
Yeah.
Joffrey drank Bud Light.
Oh,
100%.
definitely. You know what?
Right?
Actually,
Now it
actually,
becomes so clear.
I think Joffrey was probably an IPA guy.
He probably drank Bud Light Lime.
I think it was
No, he was definitely a
Yeah.
flavored Bud Light.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing too about this is like clearly this is like if an ad agency like Bud Light was doing Star Wars and they're like, yeah, we'll have this scene where Luke and Han and young Han Solo and Rey fight Darth Maul and Darth Vader because it's Star Wars. It's like, oh, you don't. Like, you know the iconography, but you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's what this comes off as like, yeah, I've seen some Game of Thrones stuff. There's like a dragon and a big guy and jousting. Like, it all fits.
Yeah, put it all together and make our
It all
product look
tracks.
dumb.
It's no.
I know that a lot of people love this ad, but I think that
Do they? Oh,
they
sorry,
do. No, a
y'all.
lot of people do,
Weird.
but I feel like it's adverse to how deep into the lore you are, because you know that if it was another franchise, if it was like Batman and he cracks open a Bud Light, the people would be like, "What?" You know, I think it just depends on like if you're a casual Game of Thrones viewer, you're like, great,
Batman's
but
a
I think
Guinness
yeah,
guy
dragons.
for sure. If
but
anything,
I think people deep into the Westeros lore are just like, what?
Isn't
you
Bud Light
just
the
do?
beer that was in Transformers 5 and
Yes,
Marky
Mark
Mark like
Yeah.
cracks it open right in front of a guy and like
On a
drinks-
car.
cracks open on a car and drinks it.
Yes.
In a very domineering way.
That's
They
correct.
have some of the worst crossovers
Yeah.
that I think I've ever seen.
you know what? Don't do it. And if you guys love this ad, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I just find it very odd.
How is this not an Aquaman? It writes itself.
Oh.
If you're gonna
Yeah.
cross over with a Warner-based franchise, because Game of Thrones is based Warner, right? Yeah, HBO.
HBO now.
Aquaman
yeah.
makes more sense. He'd be pounding brews and kicking
Yeah.
butts. But
I guess
you know.
to your point, whoever made it, I can't remember, but it's got to be that Game of Thrones is like, people know it's coming back. Maybe we don't necessarily want to spend the advertising money to do it. And Bud's like, we'll foot the bill. We'll do it if we can use your thing. They're like,
Can we
all right,
kill you?
As long as people know what the date is at the end.
But just
sure.
think about, aside from the cost of actually just the airtime, there's also the cost of that dragon, which made no sense in context again. But
So the Bud Knight got killed off camera.
Yeah.
I hope he
sits
on the Iron Throne at
He
the
might
end.
come back.
Yeah.
Because if it's off camera, we don't believe that the death is real.
Exactly.
Am I right?
someone to introduce you to.
It's like the Bud Knight
Bud
and
Knight.
Stannis come like raging through. First of all, the Bud Knight and Stannis buddy comedy.
Yes.
But second of all, if you're gonna pay for the dragon, but then I guess you can't show that kind of gruesome death in the middle of the Super
No,
Bowl.
you
Is
definitely
that the
cannot.
situation?
Probably.
I don't know, man. Some of these other spots we're gonna get to,
Oh, yeah.
you can show a lot in the Super Bowl. Apparently, show some messed up
Talking
stuff.
about Toy Story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Grim.
Yeah.
So weird.
Do you have more on the Bud Knight?
No.
I do, but I'll move on.
Well, the difference is that like we've all had like 18 hours to process it, and
I just
you
saw
just
it.
saw it, so it's hit the raw nerve that we all felt last night during the game.
Apparently, people weren't bothered by it. Maybe we're all just horrible, soulless, empty beings. But with that in mind, Toy Story 4 did release a new trailer, and also there was a synopsis in the email that Walt Disney sent out about the trailer.
Personally.
I'm
From his
gonna
ice
yeah,
mouth.
it came through. It was just his head. They've managed it now where he can just give vocal commands with just his
Chimaroo, Ron.
Yeah,
It's
Jim
me,
Chimaroo.
Walt Disney.
Oh, that's a whole scary story that I'd like
tell in the
to
dark.
actually see, to tell in the dark, which we'll get to. That's like an interesting Twilight Zone. Okay, that would never happen.
I'm sure it's a Goosebumps.
Or
Maybe
something.
not Walt Disney himself, but
Some disembodied former
Head.
cartoon.
I'd watch a
Disney park.
Bud
Yeah,
Knight Walt
agreeing.
Disney's Frozen Head buddy comedy.
They sit on the Iron Throne.
Yeah. With Ed Sheeran. It's perfect. Yeah.
Oh boy. Woody, voice of Tom Hanks. I'm going to read the synopsis to you guys because I read it really quickly this morning and then I went, what?
No. Backtrack. Roth's like, I'm on the phone with her. She's like, I read this thing. I read the synopsis. Let me tell you. Woody and Bo Peep make trash. And then the trash goes to a carnival. I was like, are you high? Are you driving intoxicated? What are you talking
Those
about?
are two separate questions. So let's
Now
return to
read
the
what it was.
synopsis. So Woody, voice of Tom Hanks, has always been confident about his place in the world and that his priority is taking care of his owner, whether that is Andy or Bonnie. So when Bonnie's beloved new craft project turned boy, Forky, voice of Tony Hale, say it again?
Turn toy, not boy. That's
That'd
Pinocchio.
be a whole
sorry.
that'd be a different movie.
See, part this
Pinocchio.
derailed real fast over the phone.
We got
my
4 lines in.
Well, because I did read Boy, I will confess, after right before we read it, I did read Boy, and I was like, I don't know, is it like Pinocchio on
Yeah.
Pinocchio? This is confusing. Declares himself as trash and not a toy. Woody takes it upon himself to show Forky why he should embrace being a toy. Totally different context if you read it as Boy.
Yeah.
It really does.
I'm trash. That's
Might
all.
have been
You're
why
boy.
he thought it was so strange.
It changes the whole thing. But still, it's weird. It's like 2 different movies. Okay, so that's one movie. That's sweet, right? But here's the second movie. When Bonnie takes the whole gang on her family's road trip excursion, Woody ends up on an unexpected detour that includes a reunion with his long-lost girlfriend, Bo Peep. Voice of Annie Potts, after years of being on her own, Bo's adventurous spirit and life on the road belie her delicate porcelain exterior. As Woody and Bo realize they are worlds apart when it comes to life as a toy, not boy, they soon come to find that this is the least of their worries. So I'm just like, I thought that the teaser looked cool. I thought the image looked cool. Like I've loved all 3. Toy Story 3, I think, is one of the best third acts of any trilogy ever. I mean that really. It's incredible. That said, this does feel a little bit like 2 movies together. One is kind of like your ex-lover has become hardened by life. Your once innocent girlfriend has
wears
become
pants now,
hardened
Raph.
by life on the road.
How does a
Changed.
porcelain?
That's
I'm sure that they'll
exactly-
explain this. How
No.
a porcelain lamp
No.
changes clothes.
Well,
That was part of our car
I
conversation.
Now within the rules that they've kind of, I guess, set themselves, self-imposed rules of being a toy in this world, isn't changing your clothes like a huge no-no? Like, aren't you supposed to
Well,
be
the
as
owner would have-
inconspicuous?
yeah.
But how, you can't change porcelain, so it's
No.
not the real her.
Maybe she
that's part of this twist.
maybe she was bought at Andy's mom's yard sale by a porcelain.
Wait, so,
porcelain.
A welder.
so do you think that this is an Us crossover where it's just her doppelganger who's like her evil doppelganger?
I would
Could
watch
be.
that.
Could be. Yeah, I think
Jordan
also
Peele
it
is
could just
involved in
be
both.
yeah.
That's in literally everything, which we'll get to.
It could just be, like a kids movie.
No.
No.
Nope. Nope.
I think that we may maybe apply an amount of logic to Pixar films that maybe aren't supposed to be there. They're more concerned with telling the story.
Hey,
for
they,
children.
they told
Billy,
us to
keep-
take them this serious.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Ignore that. Billy, let's keep unpacking this one.
But first of all, yeah, this is the most confusing synopsis. Like, how, first of all, Forky
Slightly
is...
less so than when I tried to explain
Right. Oh
it
my
to you.
god. And like you were in a crowded area, so her cell phone reception cut out. So she's like, Bo Peep, garbage. Woody, Bo Peep.
Become a boy.
Hang up. But it's like, okay, the other thing that's so weird about all the marketing for this movie so far is they've really zeroed in on Key and Peele's toy characters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But Forky apparently is going to be maybe our new kind of protagonist, but even he gets like, he's an afterthought 2 sentences into this paragraph. Like,
Yeah.
this seems like a very strange movie, which, look, they could totally pull it off. If anyone can really, has the benefit of the doubt, it's Pixar. That being said, like you said, man, they stuck that landing so hard in part 3. Why
Yeah.
would you go back? Huh?
Sorry, I just realized the Coco Easter
Guitar.
egg there.
Where?
The,
Oh,
the
yeah.
little guitars.
Yeah.
Look at that. Sorry.
No, I was just saying why, like,
all one
you
universe.
better have the best freaking story that just could not be untold
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make this movie. And that synopsis, I mean, if that's your elevator pitch, you didn't sell me yet. So
Well, and just to be clear, because we're not trying to be all negative, like I said, I liked the teaser. I'm excited for the movie, but where it feels like 2 separate stories is one is Woody trying to kind of bring Forky into the fold and stop having so much self-hate through a lot of meditation, I can only assume. And then the second one is, like I said, this sort of adult story of like, you know, what life has done to one of the toys versus the other who's remained sort of insulated and within the fold of being a part of a family.
That's what
That is the
Pixar's
Toy
great at.
Story. That's
Yeah.
sort of the Toy Story vibe, though. It's about
Yeah.
like real life will hit you in the face, even if you're a toy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the second half,
Toy
the
Story.
second half actually feels more like a Toy Story movie to me
Yeah.
than the first one.
Well, maybe the first one is just the inciting incident.
Uh-huh.
Fair. I mean, it could be awesome. It could be really interesting. But yeah, those first few movies were really, really good. Also, or do you think that they are marketing this? We were questioning this, marketing this to kids or to us?
It doesn't
They
matter.
always have one foot in each,
Kind of open to
demographic.
$100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can market it to 90-year-olds. Same result.
Recut the trailer with that in mind.
Yep.
Although, why wouldn't it appeals to everyone? It's a 4-quadrant.
It certainly is.
Do you have any other thoughts?
No, just these movies have always been about, death or being forgotten and being irrelevant and moving on and healing, and they're deep
Yeah.
stuff.
They
so
are.
to have this kind of dark past with his ex, and she's moved on and they've become different people, that's kind of in line with Toy Story.
All right, you guys, after my confusing morning call with Billy, I am immediately excited for this. So well done.
Yeah.
Cynical Spencer
Yeah.
has turned it all around.
I gotta, like Billy said, like you gotta trust that they have a great story, otherwise they wouldn't have come back. Because I know they've started and stopped a bunch of times on this movie.
Yeah.
Like there was one where they were gonna go to Japan, and there was I've just been hearing about different Toy Story 4s.
Wasn't there like a recall one, or was that one of the other sequels that they ended up not doing, where like one of their toys got recalled?
Or a short.
That's
I
dark.
don't know. That is dark.
Buzz Lightyear's full of lead. He's
But that last film, the third one, I love that movie. That's my favorite of the three. But it's also hard because it couldn't exist without the foundation of the other two. But that has so much pathos to it. Like, it's such a beautiful film, and that damn bear, Jesus. That's one of the most tragic figures like in cinema. So I think you're right. The bar is so high for them. That's got to be challenging for the creators in and of itself. But I'm excited to see it, and good job, Spencer and Dan. Let's talk about Jordan Peele taking over the whole world, which is exciting for me because he is amazing. Not only is he a part of Toy Story 4, but he also has the Twilight Zone coming out. There was an ad during the Super Bowl for that, and Us. The Twilight Zone is set to premiere on April 1st on CBS All Access. Damn it.
He got me. They got me.
They're going to get me.
There. No, I mean, I thought that the Super Bowl had
Glitch.
gone off the air.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It's well done.
Spencer, thoughts on the Twilight Zone and CBS All Access of it all?
Look, that's not much. It's nothing we didn't already know, which is Jordan Peele is doing the Twilight Zone. I'm in. It's on CBS All Access. Okay, maybe. I haven't signed up yet. I don't know if I will, but that's like definitely the biggest incentive I've had yet.
Are you waiting to hear? Oh, you already are a member.
Yeah.
I've
So
paid
you're
CBS
gonna-
All Access so much money to not watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
To date, it's ridiculous. So I kind of have to watch it just to get my money's worth at this
Yeah.
point. I liked it because I knew that he was involved, but I like he's tapped, at least in the marketing. We'll see about the actual show, but I love that he is really tapping heavily into that Rod Serling vibe. That he is bringing that sort of 1/4 wink, but also like 3/4 totally serious feel to it. At least the marketing show could be completely different. But I thought it was a great ad. Like, I loved how they kind of made it feel special, and it was just for the Super Bowl. And I like the Twilight Zone, the original, and I know that they've tried to reboot it a few times and it hasn't really worked, and the movie was definitely a mixed bag. But I'm excited.
Yeah, I love the Twilight Zone and I love Jordan Peele. So I will wait, I'll confess, because there are just so many different things to subscribe to currently each month. I'm going to wait, Dan, for your report back about the first episode to see if I need to invest for the month and then cancel, which I'll forget. And then a year later, I'll be like, damn it. So that's that story. Us. Did you guys watch the trailer for that?
No,
Jordan-
I missed the second one. I've seen the first one.
Oh, well, let's talk
I got
about
5
it.
on it.
Huh?
The I got 5 on it one.
Yeah.
Is it still that song?
No.
No. It looks really great. It looks very, very, very creepy. This is, of course, his follow-up film to Get Out. And it's, I mean, you have to imagine, I think what's great about this trailer is that it gives you the basic premise, which is that this family goes on a trip and that these doppelgangers show up. But it doesn't give you any more than that, which is a creepy enough premise, and it's been used in horror before, which I think Jordan Peele does really well, is he riffs on kind of tropes, and he plays them and he turns them on their head, or he plays into and against them at any given point in the movie, which I think as an audience, if you are always playing against tropes, then your movie starts to become predictable. If you're always playing into them, then your movie starts to become predictable. But if you're using them in service of the story either way, you really don't know what the person's going to do next as a filmmaker, and that's what I think he did in Get Out very well in terms of the horror genre. So I'm excited about this. I will say, interestingly enough, Elizabeth Moss was in a movie, I want to say it was a Duplass movie about doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Do you remember the one I'm talking about?
I forgot what it was called, though.
It was like also about relationships. What was that called? I'm going to look it up.
Go to a retreat or something by a lake.
Yeah. As Dan gives his input, I will look that up.
Yeah, this is
Am
another.
I scaring you?
There's a little.
There's a little
that's
bit.
all right.
All right.
Yeah, this is another one. I was already in on this from the first trailer. This one had a couple new things. I like the bringing in the idea of these sort of omens, these coincidences that are portending something terrible happening. I think that definitely sold me on the atmosphere of it. And again, I love Get Out. I love that he sort of said that this is the genre he wants to stay in, and I'm very much looking forward to this one. That's what I got.
That movie was, Mark Duplass was in it, but Charlie McDowell directed it. It's called The One I Love. It's actually a pretty cool movie.
Yeah.
Spencer, thoughts on us?
I didn't see this trailer. I can talk
Did
more
you
about
say
Chunky
that
Milk.
before?
Yeah.
I don't listen to anything you guys say. Billy.
Yeah, I just think it's so crazy, and I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, and I just don't know maybe his work well enough. But it's so crazy to me that Jordan Peele, with one movie, which was Get Out, kind of completely reinvented the way that we think of Jordan Peele and who he is as an artist. Because before, it's like, you know, straight up comedy. It's like, oh, why would he do that's kind of weird. But like between the Twilight Zone and Us, it's like I feel like he's cemented himself, and these haven't even come out yet, but I feel like he's cemented himself as like the go-to like horror suspense guy. And not like horror like slasher or whatever, but more kind of a return to some of that more psychological horror. I think both of these were really interesting. I'm really looking forward to Us, and that's coming from someone who like actively avoids horror movies, but I think that's part of what Jordan Peele brings, is like the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. A good horror movie kind of brings you in with that lightness, that comedy, that kind of like that sense of like I can hang with this. This is good. I like this, because that's when they get you and then scare you. And I think he's really good at that and really makes you think. So loved both of these, and looking forward to both of those.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the other thing about him and what makes sense for Twilight Zone is that Twilight Zone episodes were always really creepy. I love the Twilight Zone, but it wasn't like Tales from the Crypt where horror was the real key. Twilight Zone was always about some kind of metaphor, right? And so certainly Get Out was that. I imagine Us will be that. But he's also just become an empire in 2 years. He's one of the producers. We were talking about this the other day, along with Jason Blum on BlacKkKlansman. He's like in everything right now. So good for him. I will say, when I saw Keanu, I know you're going to judge me on this, but Keanu has so many horror references in it. He obviously didn't direct that, but I felt like, and there was so much in Key and Peele as well, like you could feel his love for the genre, that I was super excited about Get Out and thought he would be great at riffing on that genre at the very least, but had no idea that he would be as excellent as he actually is. So no pressure, but it better be good, I guess, is what we're saying, right?
I certainly hope it is.
Yeah.
I remember a time too when
Just
when Get Out was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this movie. And I think even the first trailer came out, people were like, is this a comedy? Is this like a parody? Is this a joke?
People thought it was going to be like
and now
a,
it's like,
yeah.
no, like this is the guy, which is cool. I like that.
Speaking of scary stories to tell in the dark, which is a series that I never read, but you guys did.
Ooh,
No,
boy,
I
yeah.
just saw those trailers, that reverse pinball action.
I remember this like when I was in elementary school. It's like, yeah, everyone reads Goosebumps.
Yeah.
But if
you
you're like,
really wanna
yeah,
get
if
scared.
you really are into it.
Yeah.
And I think there's only like 3 books.
They had the most horrifying imagery. The illustrations in these books were horrific. And yeah, these did not pull any punches, these stories. They were very scary.
This one is the one that I don't like. Yeah.
This is Guillermo del Toro produced and directed by Andre Overdahl, I believe, from a script by Dan and Kevin Hagman. Yeah, this is I'm surprised, to be honest with you, because we don't see much in the way of anthology movies anymore. You know, like there was Twilight Zone, the movie.
Yeah.
There was Creepshow. There was Amazing Stories, which I think was a movie.
I think it might have been a
Spielberg
TV
produced.
show.
It was
I
a
think it was
TV show. Did they? So it was just the show.
I
Did
believe
they ever
it was
do a
just the
movie
show.
of it?
I think it was just the show.
Okay, in any event,
Yeah.
you don't really see that much in the way of you don't really see that much in the way of anthology shows that aren't season to season anymore, that are like episode to episode
Right.
either. So I'm surprised this is coming out in
What
theaters
about
and not
Buster
like
Scruggs?
Netflix.
That was
Yeah,
anthology.
it was Buster Scruggs.
But they're
But
few
the-
and far between.
But that's why I'm surprised it's not going exactly. That's my point. I'm surprised it's not going to like Netflix. That it's actually coming to theaters.
Maybe they're banking off the nostalgia of the franchise or of the IP of like, yeah, that's not something I would immediately think of, but you show me that book cover and I
Yeah.
instantly am taken back and remember reading those. So maybe they're just banking off
I
that.
think they definitely are, because unlike the Goosebumps films, which are obviously marketed to kids today,
Yeah.
these films seem to be marketed very heavily toward not kids, which would be towards the people that actually remember growing up with these books. And I'm sure they're probably still popular, but they really did. They peaked when I was in elementary school back in the 90s, believe it or not. Pretty easy to believe. So I like that they're not kidifying it. Which, when I heard that Guillermo del Toro was producing this, I was like, good, because that means even if it is a kids movie, that he's really going to put an edge on it. But I was even a little more surprised to see how hard edge, and they could just be editing these trailers a little more intensely to sell the concept. But I think you're right. I think they are definitely banking on the nostalgia, not of kids now, but of people our age who read these in elementary school. I never read Goosebumps. I did read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, because they were actually
Wow,
like
you went straight to
super-
the hard stuff.
Yeah, well, because I
Right,
think
the
that I tried
gateway.
to read a
Yeah.
couple of the Goosebumps books, and I was like, okay. But the Scary Stories books are like actually very, very scary. Like there were parents that wouldn't let their kids bring them home because like just the pictures were too much.
I had to go back to Boxcar Children for a while after.
Yeah,
It's
Hardy
scary.
Boys, and
Yeah.
I would also
So Matt
between like
Christopher.
Hardy Boys and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
They were intense though, yeah, for sure.
I'm surprised. I think there's also, I'm surprised that they showed some of this, because it is really, it edges on, like, if you can't show the Bud Knight getting vipered, which I get, but some of this edges on pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
It edges on it.
Is
Doesn't
there a
go all the
rating?
way there.
No rating yet?
No.
None.
No?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume PG-13, but we'll see.
One of the more, so off of the entertainment topic, this one was interesting. Tom Hanks and the Washington Post. Okay, so there was an ad, I'm not sure, but we presume paid for by the Washington
Yeah.
Post.
I think it was almost 6 million. It was 5 point something.
Narrated by Tom Hanks, that's basically advocating for journalism and to keep journalism alive in the world. And the title of the ad, Enjoy Your Snacks, is Democracy Dies in the Dark, I believe. Crack open a Bud Light and
that's
enjoy
their
the
tagline.
rest of the game.
Yeah.
Really interesting tonally, first of all, but also just want your take on kind of what it says that the Washington Post is having to advocate for the institution of journalism during the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, in a vacuum, take it out of the moment. It's just seems like a very sort of serious but earnest pitch for the Washington Post. I think it's when you add context that you're like, oh boy, is this where we are? Are we at the point where we're advertising journalism on the Super Bowl? To the extent of like, was it money well spent? I mean, this was a very well produced ad, but it's going to get the people that agree to nod their heads, and it's going to get the people that maybe don't like the Washington Post to just get even angrier at the Washington Post. So I don't know. It's a well done ad in general, but what did it win any hearts and minds? I sincerely doubt it.
Even with the voice of Tom Hanks.
With Woody from Toy Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very confused.
Yeah, it is very confusing. A lot of crossover events happening in the Super Bowl ad lineup.
You know what kind of reminds me of? Like, you ever see those commercials and you kind of get sucked into the narrative for just a second, and it's like someone falls down or someone gets bullied and someone just walks up and it's like picks them up and dusts them off, and you're like, okay, where's this going? What is this for? And then the end, it's just like, don't be a dick. Brought to you by Be a Good Person Association. Like, there's commercials for just don't be a dick? Like, that's a campaign? Like, this kind of, I feel like we're in idiocracy,
There
and this
should
is where
be.
we are now. There's just commercials for like, hey, just be a good person and don't be dumb. That's the commercial.
Well, that always confuses me because, I mean, Washington Post is a business and they're trying to get subscribers or retain them. But there's also, when there's commercials for like milk or not chunky milk or beef or avocados, like, do they all, who organizes that? Who gets together and is like, we got to get the word out, guys.
The got milk.
We got a new crop of avocados coming.
Probably like, okay, I'm going to say things and I'm going to be heavily corrected, I'm sure, because I'm making all of this up as we go. Welcome to SJU. But is it, maybe there's like a farmers association or like a dairy? Like,
I guess so. Are they like all chiming in on creative?
That's a really good question. Like, who do they get to be sort of like the
creative milk
final, exactly, like the Got Milk campaign? Because it actually sort of makes sense because it benefits whoever's selling milk ultimately.
Yeah.
And there's probably only a number of purveyors of
But it's like milk awareness. It's like, I'm well aware of milk.
Yeah, it's
I've been-
always for like the staple foods like bread, milk, nuts.
There's
it's like we
war.
know.
Hey, there's a war against gluten.
Oh,
There's a
you're right.
war
You're
against
right.
dairy.
You're right.
Like, they're fighting back. There's no war against avocado. I think we all have agreed that avocado goes on toast gluten free.
Perfect food.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. 100%.
Yeah, so I
Not
don't
many
know.
people are waging the war on gluten, but they're a small and hardy bunch.
The Vanguard.
I just thought this was a really, really interesting. I mean, certainly you get as many eyeballs as you possibly can during the Super Bowl, so that makes sense. That tracks.
It just feels like the friend who walks into a conversation and it's just like everyone's like, oh yeah, what'd you do last night? Oh man, yeah, we went to a bar. It's like, oh yeah, what'd you do last night? And it's just like, oh, I couldn't go out because my cat got sick. He's fine, but I had to take him to the vet. And everyone's just like, oh. And then there's just that awkward silence. That's sort of what the Washington Post felt like. It's like even the serious ads are uplifting, like the Microsoft ad, which is great about kids with disabilities, being able to play and even the playing field, and the first responders ad with the coach that was saved, and they brought in like they're serious, but they're uplifting. And then this one was just like, democracy's dying. Enjoy the game. Like,
Yeah.
no, again, in a vacuum, well-produced ad, but like in that time and place, like
in the context.
I understand. I get it. Scary times for a lot of people. Everyone's on edge. It seems like everybody's on edge. You want to say something, you have a captive audience, but at the same time, it's like now.
Yeah.
At least give equal time to InfoWars.
Yeah.
Be like, lizard people are among us. They're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna skip over that comment. And let that be between you and your cut, and close the show, I think. But I do think it's one of those things where
Hear about that milk, Spencer? It's making a big comeback.
Hear about
Man, hit a plane.
Hear about that farmer's almanac?
I'm getting the real news.
So I do think it's one of those things where it's just one final thought on that. It's really funny because it is basically like, if you were to really sell the Washington Post right now, you actually would have made that a more entertaining ad. But instead, it feels a little pedantic and like, enjoy your petty amusements. The fucking world is falling apart. Damn it.
Or it's more like,
Frolicking.
oh, you subscribe to the Washington Post. Oh, you're so good. You're keeping democracy alive because you subscribe to the paper.
Yeah, I feel like I've been too negative today. So I get where they're coming from. They're a business. They're trying to survive. And
I
in
like
fact,
that you
It'd be
Mr.
like-
Roger this episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Just, she's changing
Yeah,
her
no,
shoes.
It'd be like if we were in the middle of talking. It'd be like we were in the middle of talking about the Game of Thrones ad, and I was like, "Guys, we got to talk about Liam Neeson." Like, no, not right
not
now.
right now.
Not the time, not the place,
We're
not
talking
right
about
now.
the Bud
We're talking
Knight.
about the Super Bowl.
we want to talk about the Bud Knight.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what the Washington Post did last night.
I think overall they were a good series of ads. I'm looking forward to Toy Story 4, which I'm been convinced is going to be one of the films of its generation, as Spencer promised me. I believe that's what you said.
Take it to the bank.
Everything else looked cool, and I'm going to go. Bye.
Hi, Mom.